Hi! So it's island ranking day, and I've been itching to make this video for ages. I kept thinking I'd wait for the latest island to finish before making it, but then a new monster class would be added, or a new island altogether, but I had to accept the constant new content and just make the video. And since it won the vote by a landslide, here it is. Now, unlike most of my MSN content moving forward, where I'm ignoring Dawn of Fire, since music and islands are the backbone of this franchise, I feel it's mandatory to include the Dawn of Fire islands in an island ranking video. Plus there are some bangers in it. For this list, I will be counting islets as full islands, and mirror islands as separate to their regular counterpart, meaning we have 39 islands to rank. It's a bit ironic to start the list with an island from Dawn of Fire when I was just singing its praise, but since we're starting at the bottom, in 39th place is Party Island. I don't think any island is legitimately bad, but Party Island is the only island I would not listen to more than once. Its instrumentals are perfectly fine, but once you bring up the vocals, eesh. Now, I'm not referring to the monsters like Mammoth or Maw, I'm referring to the come on over here cringers. I'm fine with English lyrics in MSM if they're done tastefully. For me, they need to be accent pieces like Come On Tribal Island, auto-tuned like Cybop or Rarewillbox, or go full-on lyrics like the Wordos. It just feels like they tried to make lyrics for Party Island by only using 4 words, and it's especially bad since they sing for a majority of the song. Party Island is at the bottom of the list since it's the only island I actively avoid listening to. At 38th is Amber Island, a song that was said to be amazing by Big Blue Bubble as it was being released, but turned out to be an empty mess. Despite having the 3rd highest number of unique monsters, tied with Magical Nexus at 32, there's still so many sections of the song that feel like something's missing. And it's so easily fixed, since 19 out of the 32 monsters don't play in more than 2 sections of the song. Compare that to Nexus, where only 7 out of the 32 monsters play in 2 or less sections. I think the biggest miss was with the Quints. Most only play once throughout the entire song, despite being one of the best parts of it. Amber Island also went through a rough release period, probably having the most bugs throughout its life than any other island. From minor bugs to like glitched animations, or missing textures, to bigger things like the intense Flugel glitch. The song itself also has some controversial parts, like Sousa's delayed track, or Barb's strange new voice actor. I've legitimately heard better Barb impressions from fan-made islands. I don't know how Barb ended up sounding like a congested 12-year-old. Moving up to 37th, we have Mirror Air Island, and the only reason it's above the previous 2 is because Air Island was already an A-tier song, making it hard to ruin. Overall, it isn't a bad song, but I have a hard time defending it. The ostrich stands out way too much, not to mention the jarring Epic Wubbox interjection, and the song has some pacing issues. Of the natural Mirror Islands, Mirror Air is the worst. Next, in 36th, an island that's significantly better than the previous, Mirror Cold Island, another Mirror Natural Island. I'm not going to spoil much for this list, but let's just say only one Mirror Natural Island made it into the top 30. Despite only being 36th, Mirror Cold isn't bad, it's just not as good as the other songs. Compared to Mirror Air Island, Mirror Cold Island has perfect pacing, never feeling too jarring. It's hard to find things to talk about with Mirror Islands, since they're just remixes of their regular counterpart, so anything I have to say I'll likely say again when I talk about the regular version. So don't be surprised if I barely say anything for the Mirror Islands. And speak of the devil, in 35th we have Cold Island, and most of what I say in this section can also apply to the Mirror version. Of the natural islands, Cold Island is one that's fallen behind the most. The other natural islands have all gotten significant updates that at least kept them from falling behind, but Cold Island has stayed pretty vanilla. Pardon my joke. The Wordos weren't it, Wubbox and Rare Wubbox were mid, Epic Wubbox and Strombonin were really the only updates that made it stand out, but even then it's not enough to put it above other islands. Just a bit of an aside, but I feel like I did Party Island a bit of a disservice, so I'm placing the unofficial Party Island without words in 34th and a half. Since my biggest gripe with Party Island is the vocals, I'd like to show where I'd place it if there weren't any words. Party Island still is the weakest outer island from Dawn of Fire, but it's a significant step up from last place. It's just a bit too plain for my liking. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled video. In 34th place is Plant Island, the only natural island I find to be worse than its mirror version, but as a bit of foreshadowing, not by much. Plant Island is a pretty neutral island, nothing wrong with it, but nothing too significant either. It's the OG testing island where pretty much every new mechanic was first introduced, and with all the updates it's gotten, it's kept up pretty well with the new. I'm surprised it didn't make it higher since this game was a big part of my childhood, but the nostalgia glasses I have for this song aren't enough to put it any higher. Like I implied, 33rd is Mirror Plant Island, the only mirror natural island I find to be better than its regular version. I honestly don't have anything else to say about Mirror Plant Island, since there's not much that changes between it and its regular version. The quality is equal, and I just find the composition of the mirror version to slightly surpass regular Plant Island. In 32nd is another mirror island, Mirror Water Island. For a while I actually had this a few spots higher, but listening through it I noticed several times that sounded a bit empty or parts that feel out of order, like it gets cut off. The only reason it's above Mirror Plant Island is because I prefer Water Island over Plant Island, and I'll get into why later. In 31st is a third Mirror Island in a row, and our first Mirror Magical Island, Mirror Bone Island. I feel like a lot of Mirror Water Island's problems can be applied to Mirror Bone Island as well. Sections sounding empty, parts feeling out of order, but the reason it's above Mirror Water isn't just because I prefer Bone Island over Water Island, it's because Mirror Bone isn't complete. Since we have both a Titan Soul and Paranormal to be added, I feel like these problems will be fixed. And considering how high Bone Island is on my list, I wouldn't be surprised if Mirror Bone skyrockets up when it's completed. Starting the top 30, in 30th we have yet another Mirror Island, Mirror Earth Island. Again, we're seeing the Mirror Natural Island rank lower than its regular counterpart, and here it's due to how odd the new composition is. When remaking an island but keeping all the same tracks, you end up with an oddly paced song, and I feel like Mirror Earth Island is a perfect example of this. You start off pretty well, but then take a sudden break that sounds hollow, before going back to the previous tone. It's like the song tries to be normal but takes a sudden intermission every 30 seconds. Even when the song is intense, it still doesn't have that grandeur regular Earth Island has. Next, in 29th, we have Tribal Island, an island with a similar problem to Party Island, but to a much lesser extent. Unlike on Party Island, the lyrics are used much more sparingly and tend to be used as accents rather than the main focus. Since this is an island barely any player can complete, most won't think too highly of it. But listening to it in full, I can say it's pretty good. Not good enough to stand among the greats, but good nonetheless. One complaint I have is I wish Chorister sung in choir rather than mimicking Cybop. Other than that, I don't have much else to say. Moving on. In 28th place, we have Water Island, an island I honestly don't have much to say about. I like how it's an island that doesn't rely on quick pacing and uses the soft flowing tempo to its advantage. Not many other islands do this. However, it doesn't really bring anything that other newer islands don't do better. In 27th, we have Sugarbush Island. For an island over 10 years old, I'd say it holds up pretty well. I don't know how to compare this to other islands since it's basically a cover of a real-world song, Love or Money by Christian Bush. Taking it as it is, I think this placement fits it well. It has a catchy beat with cool cast of monsters, and if there weren't so many other islands with better songs, I'd put Sugarbush Island higher. I was contemplating swapping this next island with Sugarbush Island, but ultimately I kept it at 26th. That island being Celestial Island, not to be confused for Starhenge. Celestial Island has the hard task of making a song with only 12 monsters. Even islets have 13, and they honestly did pretty well. The song does have sections that feel a bit empty, but as a whole it does a good job at portraying both derelict and energetic. This was being considered for as low as 28th, but I bumped it up since there's still the possibility Elder Celestials have new tracks, which could give it a serious boost, while Sugarbush Island is pretty much completed. Going to my second favorite natural island, in 25th we have Air Island. For the longest time I didn't care much for the song, then the Wordos were added and I fell in love with it. Even though that addition occurred over 6 years ago, I can still remember a time where I preferred Water Island. Overall, the start is pretty mid. Epic Wubbox definitely makes it stand out, but I think they could have done more with it. It isn't until the final section where it becomes a banger. Quibble and riff are key parts, but the Wordos steal the show. It's the only lyrics that reference the island's seasonal event, and you can just feel the passion of the singers. Sarah and Matt killed it. This end part alone would bring it up to 24th, but the start brings it down a spot. I still remember the trailer that teased Stew Orb. It fit the Season of Love vibe perfectly. That moment with Persona hearing Stew Orb harmonize with her, then he finished her lyric, still in my top 10 trailer moments. Getting back to ranking islands, in 24th we have Light Island, and boy did it get a glow up. Pun intended. It used to have a pretty slow build-up, making it the weakest magical island, but Yelmet, Tiawa, and Dromedary made the build-up pretty enjoyable. But what brought it out of the bottom was Phosphoran Phlox. The Titan Soul emphasized the lullaby vibe the island was aiming for, showing how a lullaby doesn't need to be soft to be effective. This edition actually brought it near par with its mirror counterpart. And speak of the devil, in 23rd is Mirror Light Island. Not much to add, but I find it's much more consistent in its intensity than the regular, which is somewhat lopsided. Like other Mirror Islands, this will be a pretty short section, so we'll quickly move along.
Next in 22nd is Fairy Island. Now, my opinion on this island has fluctuated so much since it released, not because of the additions, just the song in general. Some days I feel it's too slow, but other times I feel like it's too fast, its tone isn't clear, then the next day I'll feel like it nailed the tone. So, its position here is somewhat an average. Unlike a lot of the community, I adore Platy. The bagpipes absolutely slayed this song, and I wish they didn't lower their volume. I never thought the bagpipes could fit well into an MSM song until I heard this island. Now, normally the mirror section is short, but, well, I've basically spoiled it. Yeah, I spoiled it. In 21st place, we have Mirror Fairy Island. I think both versions of Fairy Island's biggest strength is its cast of monsters. Monsters like Flutefly, Whimsy, Ziggurat, Clavinat, Quilby, and Tusky carry the island, and most other monsters like Noggin, Drumpler, Stog, Hippity Hop, Bridget, and Owlesque help the song stand out. We're nearing the 20s, and both versions of Fairy Island were pretty close to making the cut. Starting out the 20s, in 20th place we have Earth Island. Now despite my disappointment with Mirror Earth Island, regular Earth Island doesn't carry that same disapproval. For a long time I felt like Earth Island was the best song in the game, even better than Gold Island for a while, but as new songs were added and my tastes changed, it slowly fell behind. It did get significantly better with Hyaha and Epic Webbox, as well as it getting extended, but just like Plant Island, my nostalgia glasses aren't enough to put it any higher. I don't think I can move on without bringing up the Earthquake, but I honestly couldn't care less. The Earth Island Wordos were memed to death, so I don't have any feelings about them, positive nor negative. Our first teen placement, in 19th place we have Starhenge, an island that takes the cake for doing a lot with a little. It was the first and currently only time an island was released with one monster, and boy did they kill it. Skaratar on its own sounds like 3 monsters, and gives Starhenge that mystical vibe that I love. It may have a slow start, but it's not like it's a slow build-up the entire time. It keeps this ominous tone throughout the entire song, not trying to be a fast song. If you like Starhenge, you probably love it. But since I prefer other vibes over this, just past halfway through the list is a decent placement. In 18th place, we have another Dawn of Fire island, Space Island. This island is probably the best fast-paced island, and that adrenaline boost I get whenever I listen to it got it this high, as well as the final verse that was added. Its fast pace is its biggest selling point, otherwise it's a pretty mid-island, but it definitely deserves this placement. Just a final remark, Cybop isn't a deal breaker here, since it's very auto-tuned and doesn't play for too much of the song. In 17th place, we're staying in Dawn of Fire with Cloud Island. I used to not care much for this island, but as it got updated and I listened to it more, I grew to love it, and now it ranks higher than Space Island. I always thought this was just another calm, low-key island, but it's a calm, low-key island with a vibe. Shellbeat and Dromedary help boost the tempo, while monsters like Tuskski, Reedling, and Tiawa keep that calm essence. You're going to see more islands that have a combination of vibes as we reach the higher placements. Next in 16th place, we're going back to an old island that recently got an update, that being Ethereal Island. This may be pretty controversial not putting Ethereal Island in the top 10, but honestly, it peaked when Monculus was added. As cool as Epic Wubbox is, it didn't do much to boost it. This island definitely has a unique vibe befitting its ethereal title, and even though it has some great monsters like Wisp, Oraculealy, Sox, Bellowfish, and Fungprey, they aren't really used to the best of their ability. And I think these missed opportunities will be capitalized on with the new Ethereal Islets. It may sound like I don't like Ethereal Island, but 16th place is nothing to scoff at. I just like other islands more. In 15th place is Mythical Island. When this island first released, I had it at the top of my list, but it didn't drop lower because the updates weren't good. The updates were incredible, but it slowly dropped as the new island effect wore off. Sometimes I even forget this island exists, which isn't a good sign, but when I do listen to it, it's a bop. It has a pretty unique cast of monsters like Schlepp, Weasel, and Nerve, and it's especially cool that 4 monsters were made by members of the community. Well, would be 4. Unfortunately, one of the creators wasn't able to make it. It's just unfortunate that this island faded into the background of the content released during the seasonal era of MSM. Moving along to 14th, an island I tend to swap back and forth with the one after it, is Fire Oasis. This island is an interesting one. It feels like with each update the song becomes more meme-y, and I love it. I'm not the biggest fan of Spirit, probably my least favorite seasonal, but their sound works for this island. I also find Mimic to be a standout, mimicking other seasonals on this island. Now, the reason I ultimately put this island lower than the next, rather than sharing a placement, is Epic Wubbox. Oasis Epic Wubbox is on the lower end of the appearances, but that's more of a testament to the quality of the others rather than dissing its appearance on Oasis. I think the best way to proceed is to reveal what's in 13th place and continue from there. I think it's pretty obvious that in 13th place is Fire Haven, but for those who didn't realize I was comparing the Fire Islands, I prefer Epic Wubbox on Fire Haven over Fire Oasis. I also slightly prefer the intense feeling of Haven than the poppy feeling of Oasis. The island perfectly encapsulates that freedom feeling of the fire elementals, letting loose and going all out. This was probably Big Blue Bubble's first attempt at having dynamic animations, and that would send a trend for some incredible animations on later islands. Also, stop the Gobbledygourd hate? Gobbly did nothing to you. So many of you asked for a Thanksgiving seasonal, they gave you one, and you pissed on it. Hashtag stop the Gobble hate. Next in 12th, we have Psychic Island. Oh boy, we're really getting into the good ones now. I remember back when this was called Fire Frontier and the community chose teams for which element would be the final one added. I was Team Air, I made a whole video covering it, but that was back when my channel was much smaller. I don't think that video even has 100 views. However, I'm ecstatic that we got the Magicals. I don't think original Psychic Island would rank higher than modern day Fire Haven, but thanks to the Fire expansion update, it definitely surpasses it. Psychic Island also does a good job at balancing both creepy and cheerful without feeling jarring, and they perfectly capitalized on that with the paranormal, emphasizing cheerful in this version while emphasizing the creepy in the mirror version. But it's going to be a few more spots before we talk about that island. Just to bring it up, I made this ranking before Kraftian Crocus was added, and the Titan Soul is amazing, but its addition didn't change this island's placement. The island that beat it is just far superior. In 11th, just outside the top 10, we have Gold Island. At one point, Earth was my favorite island until I saw the beauty and grandeur Gold Island has, and then became my favorite. Woblin Island is what ultimately surpassed it. But as new islands were added, this dropped even further, but it was the 2023 anniversary month that brought it this high. Both Jamboree and Epic Wubbox, as well as the extension, knocked it up a tier, keeping it from falling into obscurity. This island has 3 distinct sections, but each section feels like a seamless progression. It has this subtle, somber tone, which makes sense since this island was going to be the last island at one point, and I don't think any island carries that same tone, except maybe one.
Starting off our top 10, in 10th place we have the Continent. And I just said maybe another island carries a somber tone like Gold Island, and I think the final verse of the Continent has potential. This island is one I've had a big 180 on, and I used to not be interested in it at all, but now it's my second favorite Dawn of Fire island. Having the highest number of unique monsters, this island has a tall order to fill, and boy do they deliver. Not a single part feels empty, and each edition doesn't feel cluttered. The island is also so adorable. Monsters like Schmoochel and Hahaha are what enhance this cute factor. Most of the song is high mid-tier, but it's the phenomenal final verse that gets it into the top 10. Every time I hear it, I start tearing up, and I think most of the community can agree that this verse has become one of the best in the entire franchise. In 9th, we have the best of the original magical islands, Bone Island, the biggest gap between an island and their mirror counterpart, having a 21 island gap on this list. Even if the seasonal and fire expansion weren't standouts like the other magical islands, that doesn't stop Bone Island from being a banger. Monsters like Wither and Clacula are the backbone of this island, and all monsters perfectly complement them. Then you have the jazzy bridge verses with Denchas, Fangler, and Banjaw that are a fitting change of pace. My only gripe is the underwhelming additions, but they don't detract from the song. We do still have the Paranormal and Titan Soul that can bring it up though. In 8th place, we have the final Mirror Island, Mirror Psychic Island. Ooh, if any MSM fan was asking for a spooky island, Mirror Psychic Island has it in spades. The main reason Mirror Psychic Island is so much higher than the regular version is due to how unique its tone is. No other island has pulled off creepy as well as this island has. Harriet was the perfect introduction to the paranormals. take how good Psychic Island is, Harriet's minor form tripled it. It may just be my bias kicking in, but I love spooky things, and Mirror Psychic Island scratches that scary itch. Similar to its regular counterpart, the Titan Soul is amazing, but didn't affect this placement. Moving along to 7th place, we have the best island from Dawn of Fire, Cave Island. Now, if I were a regular player of Dawn of Fire, I'd say this island could fit that scary role, but since I don't, Cave Island isn't the first island to come to mind when I think of scary islands, so I forgot how awesome it was. Now with Mimic and Gnarls, and yes, that is the correct way of pronouncing it, not Gnarls, not Gnarls. I take pronunciation very seriously, so don't take offense if I call you an ignorant fan for pronouncing monster names wrong. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Anyway, back to the ranking. Because of their addition, Cave Island made its way into the top 10. I always knew Cave Island was great, but I forgot how great it was. The intensity is incredible and every monster perfectly fits that vibe. I rock out every time I hear this song. This island was my favorite Dawn of Fire island even before Rift, back when the island barely had any monsters on it. I think my only complaint is how short it is. I'm pretty sure it's the shortest song, clocking in at just over 1.5 minutes. In 6th place, we have our penultimate magical island, Magical Sanctum. This island, in my opinion, has the most unique vibe of any island. That oriental tone and feel is unmatched, with instrumentalists like Zister, Flutefly, Carolong, and Larvalus, and singers like Ostax and Kahoot, make the song so satisfying to listen to. You have ominous sections with Frondly, but also intense parts with Enchantling, but the build-up in the secret verse with Rorik and Enchantling is the main course. In 5th place, we have a fan favorite, and for a long time was my absolute favorite island, Wublin Island. If you're looking for an intense island in the original game, look no further. It has percussion, it has synth, it has a rocking bass, jazzy backbeat, and the English lyrics don't even bother me. Brump is probably the closest, but when sung quickly it morphs into gibberish. Blipsqueak's words are used as accents, and Mulch doesn't emphasize many words, so it still sounds like gibberish if you aren't directly listening to it. The island is host to so many incredible monsters like Astropod, Pixelotl, Poke, Zinth, Dwumroll, and Monculus, but the ultimate kicker is my all-time favorite monster, Bon Appetit. That monster, even on its own, still slays. My favorite part is that intense beat transition with Scargo, Bon Appetit, Pixelotl, and Dwumroll, leading into the quick tempo part of the song. Ooh, that's so satisfying. Now, the next island is a bit controversial, since I don't usually see this island ranked this high, but I have to be true to my soul, and in 4th place is Seasonal Shanty. If anyone noticed, there's a reason why almost every video I make has Seasonal Shanty appear as B-roll. I just absolutely love the upbeat feel of this island. Every time I listen to it, my heart just fills with joy. Monsters like Schmoochel and Hula perfectly encapsulate this vibe. The island is perfectly composed, every monster feels like they seamlessly flow into the next, like Hula and Schmoochel at the start trading vocals before coming together at the end of the verse, leading perfectly into the addition of Vavaine, Blabbit, and Gobbledygourd, making their vocal conversation more complex and harmonious, with monsters like Fiddle, Clavavera, and Yule adding perfect instruments. Then you get into the instrumental highlight, with Whizbang and Caralong meshing perfectly with Punkleton and Monculus, and later Gobbledygourd, then the short Jamboree solo before adding the vocal conversation, along with Bookworm. Finally, the grand finale starts with the castle bass, Vavaine, Bookworm, and Clavavera, with the build-up of Whizbang, leading perfectly to the addition of Fiddle, then Spurret, and finally almost all monsters join in for the last hurrah, mixing both the vocal conversation with the instrument highlight perfectly, and you can see why I absolutely love this song. The only reason it didn't make it into the top 3 is the lack of intense percussion. Bookworm is the only deep percussion, and if they added a second or third of these, Seasonal Shanty would be number 1. Taking Bronze is actually the newest island. In third, we have Plasma Islet. Now when this island first came out, I would have put it in first place, but after the new island excitement wore off, I had to drop it a few spots. Plasma Islet is by no means a bad song, I mean it's in third for a reason. The islet only has 13 monsters, but they use them to the best of their ability. I'd say most of them sound better on this islet than their initial appearance. Monsters like Nebulob and Socks are 10 times better on here. However, this islet has one glaring weakness, and that's that the best verse of the song is locked behind the hardest monster to get on the islet. Every island with secret verses can be unlocked with several different monsters. Magical Sanctum can be unlocked with Rorik or Enchantling, Ethereal Workshop can be unlocked with a variety of monsters, but Plasma Islet is locked behind Lobe, which in turn is locked behind all 12 other monsters. Despite the fact I've been judging all other islands based on their full song, I feel an exception needs to be made here, because unlike monsters like Epic Wubbox, which just add extra tracks, Lobe blocks out an entire verse. The rest of the song is still incredible, like with the back and forth of Socks and Blarit, or Whale and Nebulob, who absolutely slay the final verse, but I would still only bring it to second if I were to consider the entire song, but just that caveat with the hidden verse made me drop it to third. Next, in second place and taking silver, is Magical Nexus. This island is similar to Plasma Islet in that they took monsters who previously only appeared on one island and brought out their true potential, and doing that with as many as they did is an incredible feat. I don't think any other island goes through as big of a tone shift journey as Nexus. You start off calm and serene, then it gets upbeat and a bit funky, before slowing down a bit, then BAM! With a pop-at pop, you get into a boss encounter. Then you get a ritualistic tone before getting into a vibe I can only describe as foreign. It gives Arabic, but at the same time is a bit Oriental and a bit Greek. But whatever it is, I love it. Then it gets back to a funky groove before calming down at the end. The island capitalizes perfectly on its big cast of monsters. It's a bit ironic that the island in second place and the island in second last place both have the same number of unique monsters, but do completely opposing things with them. This is just proof of the missing potential Amber Island has.
Now, if you've been paying attention, you should know what's in first place. Yeah, there was no doubt in my mind that Ethereal Workshop would take first. It's probably in the top tier of most fans' tier list. This island answered the pleas of so many players asking for triple and quad Ethereals, and they even gave us a Quint, one of the best monsters ever. The song itself is so unique, with many experimental instruments and sounds blending perfectly to the workshop vibe, and an incredible cast with monsters like Ogler, Uweek, Gadzooks, Blairet, and every quad, not to mention the shining star Bimibeth. You have a diverse set of instruments and vocals, not to mention that final verse where basically every monster comes back for a grand finale, and you have the perfect island. So that's my ranking of all islands as of May 16th, 2025. Obviously, when new additions to the islands or when new islands come out, my rankings will change. But this is an estimate of where my opinions on the islands are, so any changes will likely be minor.